Hello, everyone, and welcome to the August 27th edition of the Gateway API Sync. As usual, this meeting is governed by the Kubernetes Code of Conduct, boiling down effectively to be nice to one another, so please do be nice to one another. This meeting has an open agenda, which is linked on the meeting invite. You are welcome to put anything you want kind of at the bottom of the agenda for today. If we can get to it, we will. If we can't, we can always roll it over to the next one. But do feel free to add your topics even while we're talking. If we have anybody new here today, we can take a couple seconds, give you a chance to introduce yourself. We'd just like to hear from you. Say hi, tell us what you're working on a little bit, something like that. We'll give a couple seconds for that, and then we'll get started on the agenda.
Hi, my name is Justin Pettit. I'm at Google. I've been historically working on Istio and just interested in getting involved in the Gateway API.
Very cool.
Cool.
Thanks
Welcome.
for coming. Yeah.
Hey, thank you.
Going once, going twice. Sold. All right. There is a note on here. It is ultimately optional. However, if you can put on your camera, it's nice for everybody to see each other. It makes it more personal. This is about each other, right? We're a group together. So if you can, good. If you can't, no worries. We'll start with a discussion about 1.2. Rob, did you want to drive a little bit? Should I drive on that? Did you have any specific?
Oh, I don't care. Do you mind presenting your screen?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought I was. One sec. You should be able to see it now.
Cool.
Hopefully.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, there's a bunch here. If you remember, we're in API refinement phase. That means that what we're looking to get into by the end of this phase, which is tomorrow in California anyways, is any API changes that we're trying to get into 1.2. So we've already had any GEPs approved that are in scope, and now we're just trying to get them across the line. I have tried to summarize the current state of things below. I really wish we had version docs. If we did, then I'd also want PRs for docs at this state, but we don't. So that's a topic for another day. What that means.
I'm sorry, Rob, has anybody actually looked at version docs yet, or is that just a thing that's been on the wish list for a long time?
There's an issue somewhere. I know a couple have looked at it and been like, "Oh, that's more annoying than I thought it would be."
Okay,
but
that's too bad.
Yeah. I would love for it to be done though. So very supportive if anyone wants to just experiment and find something.
Is there any prior art from SIG docs for Kubernetes itself that we can pull from for that?
Yeah, the problem is that SIG docs uses a whole different framework. I forget which one they're using right now. There are a bunch of Kubernetes docs that are make docs material, which is the thing we're using. That's cool. I think at least one of them has done version docs, but then what you end up with for version docs is you often need an entirely different branch structure with Git.
All the ways all the ways that I've seen of doing this, maybe I shouldn't say all. I've seen a lot of ways that seem to be able to work either with branches or with directories. I think all the ways that I have to take that back. I was about to say all the ways that I've done it use different directories, but I also realized that they're using Hugo, not
right.
make doc.
Yeah, I don't think it's one of those things where if there were a better docs solution, I'd be game for that, for sure. But again, that just makes the change that much larger, right? First, you need to change to different framework, and then you need to change to version, So, but if anyone wants to look into it, I would really, really appreciate it. So, volunteers welcome on that one. So yeah, let's run through the GEPs in their state. So name route rules, largely good to go. I'll bug someone to get a docs PR out, Guy or John or whoever. Something for docs would be great, but that's not blocking this particular deadline. Percentage-based request mirroring. If someone could just give an LGTM, I've already approved that, but since it's coming from within Google, I don't want to unilaterally also,
I'll
get
take
that
a
one
look at
in.
that.
Cool. Back in MTLS, this is also coming from within Google. Marcin has been working on this. It's in progress. I think it's going to be tight to get this one in, but I'm still hopeful. And then configurable retries. I don't know if this one's going to make it in. Mike, do you have any updates on this one?
It should. It's small. I've just had personal stuff coming up the past week or two.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm gonna try to bang it out later today.
Okay.
Mike, if there's stuff I can help with on that, sing out.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Cool. So the deadline is tomorrow. If you need an extension, just ping in Slack. I think the main public Slack channel, just so that it's out in the open, and we can run from there. Cool. And then for standard, there's timeouts, good to go. Backend protocol, good to go. In cluster gateway config, I don't think Keith is on this call, but there's. Oh, you are. Oh, awesome. Cool. So the very first PR is one that is unfortunately blocking this graduation, and it's really complicated. So if anyone wants to pull up 3284, this one is, hey, we missed the validation we should have had on the label name, I think, annotation and label name in the infrastructure stanza, which is great. Like, I'm glad this was caught before we graduated this to GA. But the problem is that it's very difficult to get this validation correct, because if in upstream, this is a bunch of Go code. We don't have that. We have regex. And so we're trying to translate basically validation that's written in Go into a really fun regex and make sure that we got it right. So that's fun. I think I added a link somewhere here to the upstream validation, left some questions. I really appreciate the person that's been trying to dig through this, and I think they're also the one that called it out. But yeah, just I think this, I'm not sure if this person's able to, I'm not sure who this person's name actually is. S. Norwin, I don't know if they're on the call.
Norwin Schneider,
Norwin
in
Schneider.
Zurich.
Cool.
So they could. Norwin, are you here? Did we just? Oh well. Rob, I was going to ask, do we really need to duplicate the Go code exactly? Is it sufficient to get close and maybe be a little bit less restricted?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the goal is to be as close as reasonably possible. If the understanding of these fields is that they're going to be used primarily, if not exclusively, to map to Kubernetes labels, that any kind of wiggle room in between is just creating unfortunate problems, right? Where you're creating a poor UX where somebody could get something through our API, but then it fails later. I know we have that in lots of places, right? But when we can avoid it, I'd like to. So yeah, I think the goal here needs to be as close as possible, and particularly since this is about to graduate to GA, I really want to make sure, because then you really can't tighten validation. I'd rather go too tight to start and then loosen if needed. Yeah,
I would definitely agree with that.
But yeah, this is the biggest gotcha for this, Keith. I think your follow-up PR is largely good to go now. Is that correct?
Yeah, I went through, fixed most of the, actually, I think all the failing tests,
Oh, did I?
but not the right PR. Let me,
You gave me a broken PR. Is it close by?
That's fun. How did I do that?
can find it here in a second. It's 3272. That's the right number. There.
Oh, what in the world? Okay.
What?
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. What? Hang on.
Did GitHub just glitch on us?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it glitched
sweet.
out.
Okay.
Okay.
Wow.
Yay, GitHub.
Interesting. Everybody prepare. GitHub's shaking today.
Right. Yeah, so I don't know, we can chat about this a bit more, but I'm worried that that the PR blocking this might not get in. So if we might need to, have someone copy that PR and finish it up if there's any outstanding issues left on it, just so that we can get the main thing in.
Yeah, I was
but-
going to ask where's the validation like as it stands right now? Like what's missing from the current implementation? Just trying to understand what the current gap is.
I think it might be correct, but I could really benefit from some additional review on this because I'm, trying to translate a Go function to a regex is a, error prone thing to do. So I don't want to be the one to unilaterally call something good. If someone else can take a kind of thorough look at it and make sure, hey, this looks fine. I think I may have misunderstood something. So, for example, one of my comments, Norman has said, actually, I think that you're reading this wrong. It should be this other way. And I think Norman is right, but I haven't had it as good a chance as I'd like to dig back into it. So any additional review to look at this, and if there's some easy things to lift across, or if others think, oh, it's good to go as is, I'm good with either of those.
Should we? Am I audible?
Yeah.
Should we not eyeball it? Should we write tests?
There are tests.
Okay. Did I miss something?
No, you're right. There aren't
I was
tests.
about to say I didn't see any tests. That would probably be.
No,
I mean, we could
you're right.
eyeball regexes all day. It might
Yeah.
do okay, but tests would be better.
No,
Yeah,
you're
I was going to
completely right.
say, yeah, maybe we can just copy the regex into Go and run some tests on it, and kind of.
No.
And maybe
Maybe we
that's
can copy the regex into Go and then write some tests that do that.
So
Or even better, maybe we can
already
write some
have.
tests that
Were you
read
both not saying the same thing?
I think Flynn is saying write test about the copying regex into Go, and then
No,
write
what I'm
test about
saying-
the copy.
What I'm saying is, instead of just running some tests against it, commit those as conformance tests.
Yeah.
And-
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
And
yes,
ideally, if what we're testing is a regex contained in the CRD, I would rather the Go code get the regex out of the CRD rather than having a second copy of it. That's not to say I have any suggestions for a particularly elegant way to do that, mind you. Just
Yeah,
I would
so-
really like for there to be only one source of truth for that regex.
Yeah, so fortunately, Gaurav has added some great tests. And now many others have added tests for cell validation, which allow you to write Go tests against any CRD validation. I'd recommend using that
Oh,
here.
that's wonderful.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So yes, we have a way. It
That
makes
sounds
it much
awesome.
easier to have a bunch of use cases of this is valid and this is not. So yeah, let's do that.
So,
Okie dokie. What were you
Rob,
gonna say?
you were talking about PR 3283 adding an API for GEP 3171 and asking for another looks good to me. That has already been merged, but B,
Oh, sweet, somebody did it.
but
Okay.
B, I have found errors in it that need to be corrected. So what do you think is the right way to do this?
I could press this button and make everybody mad. No, I'm just
Oh,
kidding.
sweet.
Probably just add it on top. If you
I
don't
mean,
mind.
I'll put a review of, changes requested on it, and then I guess we go from there. Does that?
Yeah. That I think that's fine.
Yeah, that'd be a good place
I
to
can
start.
ping
We
Jake. I'm sure
definitely.
he's fine to do a follow up. Just to, like, it looks like it's just a typo in a file name. Is that correct?
And there's a typo in one of the test names, which really makes me wonder how it compiled, but things like that.
Sweet. Okay. Oh, Jake's already
Thank you,
responded.
Flynn.
That was quick.
And thank you,
Wow.
Jake. Thank you, Flynn and Jake. We appreciate that. And that's why we always ask for as much review as we can possibly get.
Yes, 100%. Okay, so
Next up,
that's the state
were we?
of this release.
Okay.
Oh yeah, there are a couple small things. So Candace, you've been working very doing great work on conformance testing for backend TLS policy. I lost your latest update here. I think this one's ready for review. Is that correct? I thought I saw Candace on the call.
Was muted. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's ready for review. Nick has reviewed it. I have a few doubts about whether I'm doing it exactly the way that we want to do it. So yes, would like some review on it. There may be some points you and I discussed yesterday, Rob. I think I'm
Yeah.
farther along than if you could take a look, that would be
Okay.
great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Will do. And then supported features, Lior, I think you've covered this already. API changes in, it just needs a corresponding docs update still. And
yeah, I mean,
yeah,
docs in terms of the API docs will be updated, but just in terms of what is the expectation from implementers.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would also be good to just have user-facing docs that, hey, this exists on Gateway class, and look out for it, and this is what it means, and here's what basically. Eventually, we want to get to a point where docs have feature names associated with them, so that it makes more sense that I see this in status and what does it mean. So, yeah.
Yeah. I'll do that, but just to make sure the experimental change is included in 1.2, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Just real quick, I think earlier we mentioned that we do have docs for timeout and duration. I think I might have missed this.
So the docs update here, this is tracking an update for 1.2. So if timeouts and duration are going to standard, right now they say that it's an experimental feature. We need a docs update that says it's not experimental.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay.
We can. I feel fairly confident that between me and Christine, we can make a one sentence change to the docs somewhere.
Sounds fantastic.
Yeah, I could be wrong, but
Thank you to everybody who is putting all the effort in to move all of these things forward. We appreciate it.
Yes, 100%.
Rob?
Christine, actually, because I know, Christine, you said you wouldn't be able to be here that long, and I don't even know if you're able to talk right now. But if you are, happy to cover your item first, if you're around. Okay, we'll hold off on that one.
Must have gotten to her.
Yeah,
okay,
not
she
able to
says she
chat.
cannot
That's
talk.
fine.
All right.
Okay.
But Christine, I will go ahead and take a look at the gap.
Yeah, +1 on that. So the unique listener host names thing, I was just running through old PRs trying to clear out our backlog. And this is one I just wanted more people to look at. I think I am maybe the only person who's looked at it, and I'm not sure about what this actually means. So the idea here is that some implementations simply they basically merge all their gateways into one. And so if you have non-unique host names in conformance tests, which this does, then it causes problems. So this PR is saying, oh, well, every host name should be unique throughout conformance tests. And I'm not sure that's what we want here. I would like some more discussion on this, but my working theory is that we want our conformance test to be able to exercise that you can have different gateways with different hosts, well, with the same host name, but and they'll be distinct, that they won't get auto merged. But I would love some other thoughts on that, because this is coming from somebody who doesn't merge gateways by default, at least our implementation. So
What does it mean to have two gateways that have the same host name that are not merged?
it means, so generally by default, each gateway gets its own address, right? And so each gateway is, in my mind, a unique, isolated thing, unless something communicates that they aren't. And our spec says you can merge gateways if all the listeners are distinct. But if they aren't, it doesn't suggest that you should, right?
So if we have two gateways that use the same host name but don't merge, then we are relying on something out of band to allow a client to talk to the correct gateway for its host name, even though they're the same host name. Is that correct?
I think
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where, imagine that you have two different, you're migrating between gateway A and gateway B. So you have overlapping host names for some period of time, and you're doing a curl to, new gateway IP with host header, foo.com kind of thing to ensure it works before you start sending real traffic to the new gateway. I don't imagine that being a long-term config, but it is something where I think the bigger question here is if we want gateways to be considered unique and distinct, or if we want our conformance test to at least theoretically support all gateways in the test being merged, and therefore all listeners in all tests being distinct.
Go ahead, Shane.
Is it fair to say this might be putting the cart before the horse a little bit? Like, we're going to make changes to our tests in anticipation of merged gateways, but we don't define merged gateways? Like, I don't know. I'm kind of inclined, I hate to say it. I appreciate somebody taking the time, Sanjay taking the time, but I'm kind of inclined to this needs to wait until we make that definition.
Yeah, I think so this is coming from, I think there's a VMware implementation that does merge everything by default and can't pass conformance tests but as you're saying, our guidelines for merging are very limited right now, and the only thing we
don't support it officially.
No, we say you can. You can merge gateways together,
but you're not required to.
But you're not required to. Yes.
Right, but it doesn't mean that if you merge them, you are not conformant, and I think that's what happens now, right? You merge the gateways and you're not conformant.
Well, this is a little bit of a nuanced issue in that the spec says if you have distinct listeners, you can merge gateways, but if you don't have distinct listeners, you can't. And in this case, we don't have distinct listeners. And this is an implementation that cannot support, as I understand it, multiple gateways, like multiple distinct gateways at the same time. It needs to merge them all.
Right.
So I'm kind of with Shane on this one. It's weird to me to be talking about whether or not you have distinct listeners when it feels like we've never talked about what a distinct listener is or isn't. So that's that's a little surreal to me,
No, it actually is in the spec. I've been doing some reading related to this, and we do have that in the spec today. of what a distinct listener is. So we have a
Really?
definition, and we say if it
Yeah.
meets this criteria, you can choose to
All right,
merge
hang on.
things.
I got to
I
try to find
appreciate you
that.
finding that. Yeah, I got to find it too because I
Where
actually
where
feel
is that,
horrible.
Rob?
I had no idea that
Oh
that was
man,
something that we
I
said.
linked to that somewhere. So it's in gateway types. I know you got to go through spec because or that I don't know. I just know the go types. But it's hiding under the. Oh man, let me try. And
I'll just
find
wait for a link to show up rather than live surfing. But that's interesting that we do say that. I feel weird that I didn't know that we said that.
Yeah,
we
I
also
mean, me
don't-
too. I was surprised that we were as precise as we were here.
I see the thing about practically this means that each listener in a set must have a unique combination of port protocol and I'm supported by the protocol hostname. But that seems to be talking about listeners in a set. Let's see if that's the same comment.
But the thing is, anyway, both before the gateway merging specs getting in, and with the current approach right now, it feels like with the current approach right now, the VMware implementation is merging gateways, although we say we don't support it. So the big question is whether we want to change the conformance test to make it conformant, or we prefer to keep it as is until we have any progress with the merging gap.
Yeah, and to be clear, my own preference here is that we should not introduce a requirement that all listeners in all conformance tests need to be globally unique or globally distinct, because that would be an awful pain to maintain and to but that so that's my own take. I would rather not move forward with that
I'm
PR,
with you on
but I
that one.
wanted to open this up because this affects other implementations more than my own. So I wanted to be fair to others out there that might have similar requirements or needs. So
I tend to agree.
Maybe there's
with
something
you.
else we can. Oh, go ahead.
No, that was all I was going to say.
I tend to agree as well, but maybe there is something else we could do to help support Sanjay and them in the short term. I don't know. Maybe I'll reach out to Sanjay on this one. How about that as a follow-up and chat with him a little bit?
Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you.
But I'm trying to kind of think what can you do? Like, I can't imagine being able to do anything creative here, right? Like, it's either we change it to be unique or we don't.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what it comes down to. It's an interesting thing where maybe we need a feature for support. I don't know what to do. Like, you could theoretically have a feature that supports distinct
yeah, I mean, you can make it.
gateways.
I think
you can make it pluggable or something, but I guess that's
maybe
a brainstorming thing.
Well, maybe another thing that would be worth doing would be maybe more than one person could go take a look at the tests and see if there's even an argument to be made, whether it's like is it at all unclear whether the listeners in the conformance tests should be distinct or not? I haven't really looked at that, so I don't really know if it's if there's an argument.
What?
If it's blatantly obvious that the listeners in the conformance tests must be distinct, then that guides us in one direction. If it's blatantly obvious that they must not be distinct listeners, then that guides us in a different way. If it's not clear whether or not they're distinct, maybe we can change the conformance tests to make it clear. Did that make any sense?
Yeah, and I think it's not clear, but I think the thing that is clear to me is that it would be really annoying to try to ensure that they were distinct going forward, right? Because we have variations of foo.example.com everywhere, so like, trying to foo2.example.com for this test, or like testname.example.com. Maybe that's what we need to have. Like, I don't
But
know.
not just annoying. Do we want to take an opinion on it? Like, I feel
Yeah.
like if we are building the machinery to make it distinct, it means we're taking an opinion on like it should be
Yeah.
distinct.
That was
Yeah,
kind of
and my opinion is we need to follow the spec as it's written today, and the spec as it's written today says that you cannot merge listeners that are not distinct. And as long as we are saying that listeners are, as long as we're saying that our tests are not necessarily going to have distinct listeners, then yeah, that's what we're stuck with. So I think, unfortunately, status quo is probably where we're stuck, but additional thoughts on this one are very welcome.
Yeah, I feel like if we have other thoughts, we should open the debate on whether we want to change this spec.
Yeah.
And even more than that, like so that's a separate discussion, but like in the current spec, I think we definitely should have a test case where the listeners are not distinct and the gateway are not merged. So
Test the
like,
negative case. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that it's unfortunate that it feels like we're in a situation where we're basically have accidental requirements rather than like explicitly testing this.
Honestly, I think that if it's the first one of those we've run across, we're doing pretty well.
Yeah, but yeah, hearing this more, I think we should call it. I think this is what Flynn was saying originally, and others have said. I get it, that we should actually call out that we expect gateways that are supporting our conformance test to be able to support basically multiple distinct gateways, because we can't ensure that all listeners in all our tests are going to be distinct, and we have not called that out, and we probably should. But that's worth more discussion on that PR before we,
Okay,
just
if
had-
you're interested in following up on that one, that's 3220. Please do add your review. Was that Candace? Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I just had I put something in the chat that says that maybe we need tests that are marked implementation specific. And in my opinion, the definition of distinct listeners needs work. And I think we've talked about this before when we had the meeting on merging listeners. And we have that document somewhere in this in these meeting notes regarding merging listeners, and the fact that the spec is not very well defined in terms of what is a distinct listener. I think there's one sentence that really defines it, and then one example.
Yeah, that's fair. Like going above, there's the 3 bullet points above in the spec that give examples of what could be distinct, but I don't think that's meant to be a full definition, right? You could expand the scope of distinct, right? It's just saying for sure, at least these things are distinct. Maybe there are others.
Roger that.
Yep.
Cool.
3220 for interested parties. And then Christine, I think, has no input audio, so just a heads up that there is a need for review on pull request 3219, gRPC route timeouts. So if you can help review that, please do.
Yeah, this one just barely missed 1.2, but thank you for taking the time to update this out of band. I think that puts it in a really good state for 1.3. And yeah, I'll try and take a look soon.
Roger
Hey,
that.
Shane, can you tag me as a reviewer on that one, please?
Absolument.
I do not have the power to do that.
Oh, you don't?
Nope.
No. I think you can if you CC. I think if you just like add a comment that just says /CC with nothing or with your name, it'll do it. But yeah, I added you.
I'll try
Candace,
that
did you
next
mean to
time.
still have your hand up? Did you have something, or was that from before?
No, but I will put a link to the actual document and discussion I was talking about was the gateway hierarchy
Okay.
discussion, which I think this is relevant to. So I'll put a link there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gaurav, new repo for Gateway Cuddle.
Hey, hi. Thanks, Shane. Yeah, this is one of those things that we were discussing in the previous meeting, and I wanted to follow up regarding this, which is having a new repo for Gateway Cuddle. So I do have had some time to think about it, and I do feel that the pros outweigh the cons of having a new repo. So I was thinking maybe I will start the process of creating a new repo. If I'm understanding this correctly, I think I simply need to create an issue on Kubernetes org project.
You gotta
Any
float it
insights
around a
over
little bit,
there?
like you're doing right now.
Okay.
And then usually what we do is we float a SIG Network mailing list thread, just declaring the intent or the desire, give people a week or two to kind of say if they're like against it. And then you can create an issue that says, all right, create the repo. You'll see some, if you go through the SIG Network mailing list, I think you'll recently see Multi-Network did the same thing. So if you want like a template, I personally thumb this up, and I'm all for it because I'm generally in favor of separating concerns and making the main repo
Small.
I don't
Yep.
smaller, small as possible. That's a better way to put it. I was going to say less
Yeah.
noisy, but it's not noise. It's just if it's not something you want to focus on, having all the extra stuff
That's
that's
true.
like, well, so I think it's a really good idea.
I'm curious what we view as the cons of moving it out. I'm with Shane.
So-
I kind of think it's
Question.
all pro, but yeah. So what do we see as the cons?
One of the reasons we kept this in tree to begin with is I really wanted to be able to make it a graduation criteria for GEPs to have good gateway cuddle support, basically. And so being able to track that in place as a PR in the same place and release at the same time. As Gateway Cuddle has evolved, there have been more and more features that are less tied to specific APIs and more just tied to Gateway Cuddle. So releasing independently of Gateway API release cycle seems useful. So I am also supportive of this, but I think that's why we initially had it in the same.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely simpler to track stuff like that with PRs in the same repo, but as we've just seen with GEP 2257, we have the power to do PRs in other repos and pay attention to those too, right? So
yeah.
Roger that. Keith?
I'm not necessarily against it. I feel like it needs to be said. Is there any concern about sprawl across now, I think 3 different repos with Gateway Cuddle, Gateway API, and now Ingress to Gateway? That's three different repos. Might not be a huge deal. In fact, as folks have said, there's a lot of pros to having it. People able to focus in different areas, but just want to see if folks have considered that.
Yes.
I have an opinion on it. Go ahead. You can go first, Rob.
No, I mean, yes, I have those same concerns. It's a real risk. We already have trouble keeping up with the PR backlog on Gateway API. I'm really grateful for Lior for keeping track of everything on Ingress to Gateway. But yeah, that's a risk. I think the benefits do outweigh that risk, but the pros outweigh the cons. But yeah, it's a real risk worth calling out.
Well, can you repeat the risk? I'm just writing.
Just that we as a community could get too spread out and miss things across different repos if we have too many repos. Whereas if everything was in the same repo, then you might get more eyes on different things.
Yeah. Well, I do agree. I mean, to be fair, I'm not necessarily convinced to either direction. But yeah, Shane had a hand up before, so.
I agree that there is a risk to having too many different things in too many different repos. I think that's a good call. I think there's a threshold for how many is too many that I don't think we're quite at. And I think in the time between now and then, this just helps to better reflect how stretched thin as a project, how much we actually do have going on. I think having multiple repos for things that are pretty distinct helps to highlight that we have so much stuff going on in this project as an upside to the downside.
Well, I also think that using separate repos for things that are distinct makes it in ways easier to manage all of the different things going on too, right?
Yeah. I mean, I felt the same, but like thinking about it now after Kid brought it up, I feel like, and I already thought about it before. I mean, for example, we release a new version, right? So it's not necessarily like a new API version. So it's not necessarily like, I don't have we need to kind of port it back to probably Gateway Cuddle if it's become like its own repo and Ingress to Gateway. And similarly with different dependencies bump. So, I mean, in either way, we need to set up the tooling to support it. So even if we decided to have the tools in the same repo, so the tooling to support it, that different tools have different ownership, and it's really easy to track backlogs that only related to the area that you kind of oversee. But if we decide to have it separate repo, so we need to have some kind of machinery or tooling to indicate that changes that are dependent on each other needs to be in sync. And we've been
the dependencies between them is the biggest risk, right? That's where it gets really problematic.
But, I mean, that amounts to, sorry, I was about to say that in a more antagonistic way than I necessarily needed to.
I already felt it the moment you started saying it.
There are already tons of cases where anybody who's trying to consume Gateway API already has to manage having a dependency on Gateway API. Splitting Gateway control out into its own repo really just kind of makes it explicit that Gateway control depends on a Gateway API, and Gateway control needs to have a process for managing that dependency. That's not necessarily good or bad. That's just a part of being a consumer of a thing, right? So I get it. It means that process is not necessarily as simple as it could be when it's in tree, but it doesn't make it worse. To my way of thinking.
Sorry.
You said in tree, so now we're out of tree with things that are
out of tree versus out of tree in tree versus not my finest moment for phrasing. I'm sorry about that.
But the question is what do we consider Ingress to Gateway and Gateway Cuddle as consumers of Gateway, or what do we consider Ingress to Gateway and Gateway Cuddle as part of Gateway? That's the biggest question.
I can consider them consumers as programs. I consider them kind of tightly integrated projects that you could consider part of the Gateway API project as a whole, but as software, they are unquestionably consumers of Gateway API as software.
Yeah, I think one of the fun things, not to suggest we should have another repo, but related to docs versioning and all the rest, one of the things that I think we would want is Gateway Cuddle and Ingress to Gateway docs on Gateway API docs, right? Like not to have a separate docs page for Gateway Cuddle, a separate docs page for Ingress to Gateway.
That's something we brought up with the user experience stuff a week or two ago too. Like those things should be more prominent on the docs. I agree.
Yeah. So anyway, but that's
so Gaurav. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I think at the end of the day, although there are reasons to be hesitant, I am still 100% supportive of a separate repo here. One last thing I want to call out is releasing is going to be much easier as a separate repo because both Gateway Cuddle and Ingress to Gateway are O.X releases right now, and so you can release a little bit more freely than, and certainly I think you're more likely to release patch releases than Gateway API proper is. So I think just
That's true. Yep.
dealing with that, I think is going to be a lot simpler.
Roger that.
Yeah.
So yeah, you brought it up in sync a couple of times. Next step would be just go throw it out in the SIG Network mailing list that we talked about it. You have, it sounds like Rob, and then definitely my support, and then the support of many others here. I think we can have that discussion for a while, and if nobody has a stop the world, we cannot do this kind of reason to not do it, then we a couple weeks from now we could start creating the repo.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks a lot for the discussion.
Thank you.
Do we also have any date when we expect Gateway 1.2 to be out? Because I think I was discussing one of these things with Rob that it would be nice if we could somehow align the timelines of at least the first Gateway Cuddle release if it happens in a new repo or not. Obviously,
Yeah,
that doesn't mean that we delay Gateway API's release by any chance. That's not a topic for discussion, but yeah, just wanted to clear up on the dates.
Yeah, 100%. I am very interested in moving this forward. So I've been trying to find some time on a calendar where we can just kind of run through the features that we have coming in Gateway API 1.2. I think what I'm going to try as a starting point is just, we have a SIG Network meeting on Thursday, and the agenda has been pretty light for the past number of SIG Network meetings, and it's currently empty. So maybe, like, we already know everything we're trying to get in scope for 1.2. We might as well just bring it to SIGNet on Thursday and see what kind of feedback we get. So yeah, that's a starting point. That means probably release candidate early September, and then a second release candidate and final release mid to late September. Usually we have 2 release candidates and a final release, and usually that's over a 2 to 3 week period. And if we say that period starts first or second week of September, hopefully we can get the final release out by last week of September, maybe even a little early. So yeah.
Got it. Sounds good. I'll take note of this.
Cool.
That's it from my side. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. And I just added one last little thing. It's a quick reminder. I hope everybody in here already knows, but on the off chance somebody here is not quite aware or missed something, if you're going to Salt Lake KubeCon, the Contributor Summit is on Monday, not Tuesday. It got dedicated. It's not on top of the other co-located events again. So keep that in mind for your travels, that it is a day earlier than what has been normal. And don't forget to register, and CFPs are still open, and we absolutely want to have your proposals, so please do bring them. Personally, I find the Contributor Summit to be my favorite part of the convention, and I love to go to all the talks that I can at that. Keith?
Minus semi not related, so if anybody has any questions on Contrib Summit, go ahead first.
When you register for Contrib Summit, it will ask you what SIGs or working groups are you most active in. And I believe that for Gateway API, you should be checking on SIG networks, but I'm not entirely sure. Maybe you should just put Gateway API down in the other box.
I do both. I check SIG Network and then also have Gateway API and other.
Yeah, it's it was an amusing bit of bookkeeping to run across that and go, what? I don't remember this from last time. Anyway. Keith.
Take it away.
So, yeah, my other thing. We may have talked about this already, but I believe next Monday is Labor Day in the U.S. Does that affect this meeting?
Yeah, thank
Good
you.
call.
I think
I won't be there.
I think very few people will be there. I will not be there either. So yeah, we should cancel that. Thank you for the call out. As always, the Zoom is wide open. Anybody can show up at the time and talk, and maybe somebody else will. But
And
yeah,
make
If we
key
get
decisions.
consensus, if you get consensus during this meeting, does it hold true if you're not there?
Yes.
I think you might need. I think it might be polite to have at least one maintainer on, but hey, you know.
Whatever.
Nick might be able. So in the past, Nick has run when there's been a U.S. Monday holiday, so that there might still be a
But
chance.
he's in EU right now. I don't know if he'll be in
Oh.
EU on.
That makes sense. He responded at a time. I was like, wait. So yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
I'm just waiting to come back after Labor Day and find out that there was a meeting on Monday. The whole project's being disbanded. We've decided to delete the CRDs from everywhere, and oh, okay, well, more free
We
time.
actually, yeah, I'll put it on the agenda for Monday that we're going to do Ingress V2. Sound good?
Sounds good. Let's do
Perfect.
it.
Isn't Gateway Ingress V2?
No. We want the Ingress resource V2, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's the
We've done
joke,
that-
though.
We haven't
not
done
yet.
that yet, so we really should, right?
Perfect.
All right. We're at time just about. Might as well call it, right?
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Cheers, everybody.
See
Till
ya.
next time.